Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Relab Live. Today is the second last episode. This episode is the second last episode of this season. So I wanted to do something that's a little bit more practical for you, and hopefully it brings value as how we intended it to be. I wanted to talk specifically about a certain design process that we go through a lot here at Relab. Just wanted to give you an insight on how we do things as usual. But I'd like to dive a little bit deeper on our wireframing process and the reason why we do it and how we do it. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to show you a screencast of my laptop. And I'll show you some frames and some screens in there. That's from a project that we are working on. And that way, hopefully, you'll be able to get a little bit of a visual idea on what it is and what it's for and what it's like and what the purpose is and how it works. And hopefully that gives you something to think about if you're a digital designer or a developer or someone within the industry, just trying to figure out best ways of doing things in a wireframing process. But if you know even a better way of doing it, please leave your comments below, because we need some input too. So hopefully we can share some knowledge here. So I'm going to try and screenshot from my laptop and do a recording from here. All right. So now we're recording. This screen here that I'm showing you is a mobile wireframe, but we've got the desktop version of it as well, which is this one, and I'll run through it, not in detail, not in specific details on its layout, its design concept, the purpose, and what the company is and all of that background. But what I'd like to talk to you about is why we do this and why it's important and how has it helped our customers over the time. Wireframing is one process that we've been complimented on a lot from previous projects and from our relationships with our customers. The reason being is because the level of detail is very, very high that we put into the wireframes, and the effort has been very, very high as well when it comes to producing this. So we use a tool called Envision. Most of you, if you're coming from a digital world or from a digital marketing world, you'll be familiar with Envision. It's a very popular tool. If you don't know anything about it, then here it is, Envision ep.19. But it's a great tool for prototyping, essentially. And over the time, they come up with a whole bunch of new features that just brings a lot more value. And then when I guess for you to be able to present your concepts and your ideas, to make it a lot more user-friendly as well for your customers, and to put things into context. Now, it's very different when you present a design concept, a wireframe, or a prototype like this, as opposed to having it on a piece of paper or a PDF, because then you lose that context. The great thing with Envision as well is you get to send this link to your mobile phone, and it'll give you a link for you to be able to play around with in your mobile phone. That way it gives you a great feel of what it should be like, or what the design or experience should feel like, which is a very different experience to looking at it from just a static screen. Okay, so we use Envision a lot, pretty much all the time when presenting wireframes and also design concepts. Now, what you're looking at here is an example of a wireframe. We call our wireframes high fidelity because you get to interact with it. It gives you an idea of navigational process, user experience process, and then from there, you, as a customer or a product owner, you'll be able to make clearer judgments on your decisions. So we invest a lot of time in this wireframing stage. which is the earlier stage of our user experience design. Well, not so much early. This will happen after the discovery process and all of that stuff. But prior to getting into visual design, this is what we try to invest more time in. So what we're looking at here is just an example of a homepage, for example, where you get to show the product owner or the customer, a series of slideshow. Now, there's nothing here that should be judged by the looks, by its visual presence or visual presentation. It's mainly structure of the website or the application itself. So as I'm scrolling down, you'll see, type of buttons, an idea of, using icons and stuff like that. Although these icons are not the design version of it, so they will look different as soon as they're being designed. Once we hit the UI design stage, customers will know that there are videos and stuff like that, and so on and so forth, right? And as you're seeing the screen, I'll try and switch on the comments as well. The one thing that's great about Envision is you get to create live comments. So I'll just show things that are resolved in this one. But, an example is a customer would come up with some comments, and then our team will receive it and we'll be able to action it, then resolve it from there, and even respond to it. So I'm not sure if I've got an example of one that's being responded. Actually, in this project, a lot of the times we were in phone conferences as we're viewing this wireframe and going through it together in a phone conference workshop. That's why we haven't responded a lot in here, but just resolved it and actioned it straight away. But it's a very collaborative process. That's the point. And I'll switch to the desktop version of it. Now, depending on the scope of the project or the budget as well, we'll come up with different variations of the screen, whether it's a tablet, a portrait mode, or anything like that. In this instance, we're going to show you just mobile and desktop. So that's the desktop version of what you saw in the mobile. Designed for desktop, not for mobile, and within the mobile one, you'll see it as a more mobile-friendly version of it. One thing that we do in Relab is, as much of a buzzword mobile first is in the digital world, we agree to it. We agree that everything is switching to mobile. But if we do it purely mobile first, then we'll be losing the desktop experience, which is quite important still to some of our customers. So that way we're designing things based on its context, not first to anything, if that makes sense. Okay? So I'll just scroll through. Now, these are all interactive as well. Well, not all, but to certain experiences that we wanted to highlight, it's interactive. There's this thumbnail view over here, which if I click, it'll show you all of the screens that are in this project. There's a whole bunch of it, even up to the shopping cart, checkout, whatever is under the scope of the work, right? Same with mobile. So I'm just going to switch to a different screen, for example. It gives you an idea of an accordion situation there, how products are being displayed as a horizontal slider experience or behavior. When you do things like this, then as a customer, I'll be able to make a clearer and more constructive type of judgment to the things that I'm seeing here. Okay. Let me just show you a couple of other things. The other thing is in Envision you get to do not up to a development level, but to a certain extent an experience, whether it's a smooth scrolling situation like this. If I click View Cart Summary, it'll scroll down. Very limited, but it's enough to show a prototype of a concept or what you're thinking to your customers prior to jumping to design, directly into design. So, as I said, we invest a lot of time in doing things like this, and that's a value that the customer sees as well. The great thing is we've done many projects that uses this type of feature. That way we have a number of case studies to show. Prior to, if a customer hasn't done this before, then they'll wonder, what is this whole wireframing process and how is it any different to the ones that we've done before. Now, some of you might be familiar with tools like Azure, Go Mockingbird. There's a whole bunch of specific wireframing tools here. Now, Envision is not really just a wireframing tool; it's actually a prototyping tool. But what it does is we're not creating wireframes just for the sake of wireframes, but we're actually leading it to design, although not doing a whole bunch of judgment on design just yet, but it gives the customer an idea of design, if that makes sense. Now, as I'm explaining this, if you have any questions or anything to confirm or to clarify, feel free to write us an email or a comment as well, and I'm more than happy to answer you around that. But that's probably enough with me showing around wireframes. And as I said, actually the other thing is you can leave some tour points like this. This little blue dot that you're seeing here. That's just our tour point to a developer, our own internal team, or the customer as well, so they know exactly what it's supposed to do. Because like I said, there are limitations in Envision that you can't exactly, showcase within this limitation of the wireframe. But then, we'll leave notes here and there for developers or customers or partners or anyone who needs to run through this. Okay, so that is it about the wireframe. I think the more important bit that I'd like to talk about is the fact that the effort that's been put into something like this are often overlooked by a lot of people, whether it's agencies or customers or anyone starting a new project. As an example, we take very serious pride around the things that we do in our wireframes, just because it saves us so much time later on in the future, and it reduces risks a lot as well. Excuse me. Because oftentimes people would try to think at the end goal without having to think about the process. Now, in life and in everything that we do, I'm a big believer of process, and this is just one of the processes that we go through in, say, making a website or an application. That is very important, but you often don't see it as the end in the end product. Do you know what I mean? So these are the type of effort that's gone through throughout building something. Although as a user, you don't tend to see it when the website is being launched, and when potential customers or partners or anyone who comes in without knowing this process tend to think about the end result first, and think that a design or a development or a software or a platform, anything like that, could be built just like that. No, it really doesn't work like that. That for you to come up with a great product, then you'll need a certain level of process, and the more time that you have to invest in it, the more scalable it is, the better. That's why in the specifications gathering session or the discovery prior to getting into the wireframes even, what we'd like to try and find out most of the time is just, where is this leading to, what's the short term, what's the long term, and from there you'll be able to make judgments that will influence everything, from wireframes designs to the technology, everything. So there's a whole bunch of things that's in the background, behind the scenes, that people don't see. Although at the end of the day, a lot of the times we're being judged by the visual design itself and the execution and what's, I guess, the end product and what it's looking like. Okay, so I'll cut it short there, but hopefully this type of things that I'm showing you will bring you value, as I said. Remember to subscribe to our content, and next week will be the last episode within this season before the holiday periods, and then after that we'll come back with hopefully some more structured content, a better type of quality as well for the vlog, for the Relab Life vlog. And between this season and the next season, hopefully we'll come up with some interesting videos and content for you to have a look at. And as I said, if there are any questions, feel free to leave a comment. If there's any feedback as well, I'd love to hear from you. If this whole thing sucks, I'd love to hear from you as well. But if it's great and you're enjoying it, if it's entertaining somewhat, then that's great, because that's what we want, okay? All right, we'll leave it there, and I'll see you next week.